Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I trust we are doing well. You're welcome to the 23rd edition of Leadership Talk with Adegoke. Tonight, I'll be speaking alongside with my brother uh, Dapo Akiosun, SAN, and we'll be looking at the topic leadership and the rule of law. Leadership and the rule of law. Uh, so much has been happening in the last 1 week, whether it's in the US or even in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. And I just want to encourage us as we begin to jump in to make sure you take down notes. And I'll be bringing in Dapo Akinsu, SAN, to join me in the studio. Okay. You are welcome, sir.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Trust you're well and your family, sir.
Yes, we're all good, and we're staying away from COVID. Thankfully, wow. God has been good to us.
Excellent. So tonight we'll be looking at the topic leadership and the rule of law. Leadership and the rule of law. So can you just please introduce yourself, sir?
That's not difficult. That's very easy. There's not much to say about me. My name is Dapo Akinsu. I started my education in Lagos, Nigeria at the Army Children's School. From there, I went into St. Finbar's College, which I believe is one of the best secondary schools Nigeria ever had. And then I was privileged to attend the University of Ife,
wow,
where I studied history, arts, and graduated, did some work for 2 or 3 years working in the Federal Civil Service.
Looking at the top. Sorry. Go ahead, sir.
And then I went back to University of Lagos to study law.
Okay.
And as you will know, that is, University of Lagos is like the Harvard of Africa. Going to study law in Harvard in Nigeria is what you get when you study law in UNILAG.
Yes.
After graduation from law, I worked in a law firm for a year. Then I went into the banking sector. I rose in a short while to become the company secretary in a mortgage bank. Then the crash happened in the early 90s, and I had to look for another job. It was difficult getting a job, so I set up my own practice. And starting as a one-man law firm, in which I was a secretary, I was a receptionist, I was a typist, and dispatch man.
Wow.
God has helped us. In 2006, 2007, we became a partnership. I took on some partners, which included my lecturer in school and also one of my friends who had been in the US. And we formed what is now called Simmons Cooper Partners. And Simmons Cooper Partners, even if I must say, is one of the most outstanding law firms in Nigeria today in terms of our reach, in terms of the kind of matters we have handled. I know that without a doubt. There's a long way to go for Simmons Cooper. So that is my life in a nutshell. Last year, I was admitted to the Inner Bar and became a senior advocate of Nigeria.
Congratulations, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. We're so proud of you. Incidentally, we went to the same secondary school, but you were way ahead of me, and you're also showing up at a time like this to add value, and it's instructive that all over the world right now, the rule of law is something that everyone is just concerned about. But I just want you to share with us, how did you get into leadership? You've spoken about your banking experience, your knowledge of banking industry, but as a company secretary, but it's different from being, a practicing lawyer, because I believe that you're also into litigation and so on and so forth. Tell us, please, how did you get into leadership?
Well, leadership is something that you grow into or it comes upon you. But the
Okay.
first thing about leadership is that you need to be a servant. I worked with some people. I had some mentors I looked up to. I went to my mentors. I learned from them. And I started as a junior lawyer in the banking industry. I was assistant to somebody. From there, I got another job opportunity that gave me the essence of promotion. But in the course of leadership, one of the places I found the best training ground has been the church. In church, I joined the workers team, and you just have to learn to surrender your will and submit yourself to whoever is in authority or leadership over you. So it becomes easy to guide and learn from them. If you're attentive, if you listen well, I listen and take instructions. I do it to the best of my ability. And I always know that that little extra makes a difference. When others give up, I put in a little extra for that. I learned something in my secondary school then, that which I wrote on my wall, that I can do it and I will do it. And I wrote it on my wall then as I can and I will. And every time I look at something that somebody has done before, a challenge that is set before me, I just believe that once there's a will, there's a way. It may not always come easy, it may not always come quickly, but in pursuing the end of it, and until I get to the end, I just don't stop. I feel, I get up again and do it again, but you just keep trying. And that way, you find that as you accept more responsibility, people learn to entrust you with more responsibility. Not always about the money, but first of all, about just delivering results. And I always believe that the more results you deliver, the more people entrust you with bigger responsibilities. And say, if we throw this at him, he will take it. And in a short while, you become a supervisor of other people who are learning from you. And you can show them, this is how I did this before. It's not so difficult. But many times I also listen to those who have done it before. And I say, how did you do it? What do you do? And I take hints from them. I put the one I don't like aside and do the one and look at the one that I can handle and continue from there.
Wow. Amazing. I just want to salute you, sir. When I reached out to you, you didn't even hesitate to accept the invitation. It shows the humility in you, sir, because I've reached out to some people that are, knowledgeable, but they keep on, some of them say they are so busy. I know you are also extremely busy, to find out time, to create time to, because quite a number of people are listening to this all over the world right now, and you're speaking into so many lives. I just want you to also speak into this. What's the relationship between leadership and the rule of law?
Well, I guess leadership is what makes the difference to you. Leadership is what makes you follow the rule of law. As you lead people, you have to guide them in a certain way. But if you are not following the law or following rules and regulations, it will be difficult to teach people the way to go. If you're always looking at shortcuts and doing things the wrong way, and the only way you can help people who are looking at you is by showing them how to do things right. And I guess part of the problem we have in this country, that is Nigeria today, and the world generally, is that people always want to do things a shortcut way roundabout. Let's get the results quickly without paying the dues or going through the proper procedure. And there's always a procedure. You see, people want today, a lot of people want to get rich quick. And that is where you find people getting into money rituals, doing sacrifices because they think that all you need to do is have a tree behind your house making money. No, but hard work pays. If you work hard and you pray and you find favor with God, you will find that those things that you are pursuing very soon will start pursuing you. But part of leadership is also being willing to make sacrifice of yourself, of your time, and of what you have. Because if you don't give what you have, then how do you help others? How do you lead others? As I said to you earlier, I've been in meetings from 7 a.m. today. I barely got in about 15 minutes before this show started.
Wow.
And I just said, well, it is a commitment to help to see other people grow. The more people that you can help to grow, the better for you ultimately.
Awesome. I want to because your screen is a bit smaller than mine. I want to see whether I can manipulate it to become a bit, because I would like people to see your face properly. So I crave the indulgence of those who are listening. I would now. Okay, so let me bring you on properly. Oh, okay. There's no volume on this one. There's no sound on this one, so I might have to switch back to. Oh, okay, I need to add you back. There's no volume on. No. Let me unmute the mic. Okay, you have to unmute. Okay.
Yes, I've done that now. I think we're good.
Excellent. So yes. Now I just want to now look at how can a leader benefit from obeying the rule of law. I just want to cite some cases, instances, so that it won't just be too it won't be too intellectual. In the US, I was following the impeachment trial yesterday, and 57 senators to 43. 57 for Democrats. Can you move closer, sir? You can move closer. Yes. Yeah, it's better. 57 to 43. And I saw, January 6th was very, very, I can never forget what happened at the Capitol, where the mob came upon the, the Capitol. And as it turned out yesterday, we had 57 Democrats to 43 Republicans. Can you just speak to, what happened at the Capitol on the it's the 6th of January? We're still going to come back to Nigeria, but I want us to just, yes.
No, well, you see, it happens all over the world when the leader is trying to circumvent the law. What we saw there was typical. What could have happened in any African country, and they would say, "Oh, Africans are barbarians." But there was an election that was free and fair, but the president or the person in leadership was not willing to accept the will of the masses, and he was doing everything possible to circumvent it. And what you find, or what you saw, was a chaos that happened from people who trusted his judgment and were being led astray by following the wrong leader. And many times, you also need a discerning spirit. You also need to look at what is, as I said earlier, the things that I see in people I looked up to as mentors. There are some things they do that I know, well, they're first of all men, but you also now need to decipher, is this right or wrong? And that is your sense of value, your value judgment. Is it right to upturn the will of the people? Yes, I believe in this man, but the majority have said he's not the person they want. Will I accept what the majority is saying, or must I always have my way? And there are times you need to step back and have the. But what you saw was an unruly mob being led astray by a wrong leader, and they had their own motives. They just wanted to cause confusion, and I'm not sure how far they could have gone. But it also shows that there was a resolute portion that said, we will do what is right. And as long as a majority will do what is right, then you will find that good will always prevail over evil. But when people begin to think, oh, well, let's support the wrong cause so that I can benefit by knowing the person in authority, then the whole system collapses and everybody is in trouble, because it could have been worse. But I think that was a show of shame, and it showed us that Americans are not better than Nigerians, only that some people will do what is right.
Wow. The president of the United States, America, after the trial, said that democracy is fragile. Do you believe that democracy is fragile, or is that a very hard statement?
No, but from my own experience as well, you can see that democracy is truly fragile. From what we've seen, all it takes is one person to do what is wrong and lead many people astray. And in some countries, that is what has led the military to come in and say, we're taking over. These politicians don't know what they're doing, and they just have martial law. So until people begin to do things right, you will find that democracy, and as you can see, people in parties here change parties. They cross from one party to the other. And you wonder, what ideals do you really stand for? Because democracy is also about standing for some ideals you believe in. If you're a Democrat or a Republican, there are some things that you stand for. Are you socialist or are you capitalist? And those are the things that you need to stand on one side of the divide. But jumping back and forth without any opinion of your own is what makes democracy even more fragile.
Now, the outcome of the trial now, as it is now, what is likely to happen? Because one of the things that the impeachment managers were saying, that if there is not a guilty verdict, is likely to happen again. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, from the things I've heard, you will see that although the Senate said he was not guilty, they didn't say he was not guilty, but majority did not vote for him, did not vote against him because they did not achieve the maximum. But definitely more people voted to say that what he did was wrong, and did not reach the 2/3 majority that was required to impeach him. But even one of the most critical people, I think that was Mitch McConnell. Yeah,
Mitch
came back
McConnell,
that what he did was wrong and they knew he was guilty. But they just kept the vote, but he did not vote so that he would not be punished or sanctioned for it. Because what would have followed would be sanctions. And he has avoided the sanction from the Senate of impeachment on technical grounds that he was no longer the president at the time this was coming up and things like that. Ultimately, from the complaints and people who were led astray, some of them are saying they believed him. So I think that the trials will still continue on different levels, and more people are coming out to say, well, yes, we believed in him, is why we did what we did. So he may not be impeached officially, but definitely the truth is coming out, and more people are likely to vote, to see that they still hold him accountable for what went wrong.
Excellent. Thank you for speaking to that, because it's very important to we don't want to be speaking from a local perspective, because I also know that you are a global a global person. Now, how can a leader benefit from obeying the rule of law?
Easy, because if things are right and everybody follows the law, you will ultimately benefit from it. For instance, as the American example you just led now, because some leader like Mike Pence chose to follow the rule of law, the American country is now a bit more settled. But it could have gone into a lot of chaos and fighting and even a war if he did not stand by the rule of law. And so when a leader stands with what is right, he will ultimately allow the system to function better. But if you don't, you will lead a lot of what you find in these things is that when two leaders refuse to follow the rule of law, they will lead younger people below them astray. They are the ones that get up and fight. They are the ones who go to war. And you will find that they are the ones who die most in a war situation, because the people above them have not. And then all the people they were leading are injured, many die. And you're wondering that if you're a leader and there's nobody behind you again, you find they now go as low as engaging child soldiers. People as young as 9, 10, 11 are now being drafted as their followers because they've been able to kill everybody in the age group that was following them. So it's a dangerous thing when a leader doesn't follow the rule of law, and it can only break things down and make it worse ultimately.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Now, I know there's some people on the platform, someone just said, if you don't have values that you stand for, you fall for anything. That's very instructive. Someone also said that leadership also begins with serving. Now, how has it been even for you? In terms of serving, I know that you worked in different establishments. What has been your experience in terms of serving in your journey to leadership? What are the lessons you have learned? Yes.
Being able to stay the course, being able to follow instructions or guidance through. And sometimes when you don't agree with whoever is in leadership with you, you need to be able to correct without being rude. You need to do it in a manner that you make him see what you are doing without necessarily becoming disagreeable. But if he's not willing to listen to you, then you let him have his way at that time. But most people are very reasonable if you catch them at the right time. So go back and tell him that, okay, that thing you said yesterday, I'm not sure that was the best decision. And if you have a good argument or a reason why you think it should not work the way he's saying,
yes,
he most likely will listen to you. If he's a stubborn type, he will tell you, no, it doesn't matter. I've done it. But trust me, he's going to stop, pause, and think. As long as you're not doing it with the motive of getting something for yourself, but you're looking at the best interest of the organization. And I always tell people that if you work for somebody, be loyal to him. While you are there, he's paying your salary. If you don't want that job again, then resign honorably and go somewhere else. But when you sit in an organization, you grumble, you mumble, you backbite, you tear down the organization, that organization is unlikely to grow. And at the end of the day, when it fails, you will also fail. But if you don't believe in the vision of that leader, then move somewhere else and do your own leadership thing. But while you are there, be loyal to him. Help him to grow. Nobody has a monopoly of knowledge or wisdom. You are also learning. You make your mistakes under him. And if you are wrong, be honest enough to say, I'm sorry. It doesn't take anything out of you. That, okay, I missed that. I thought this was a better way to do it. But if you don't follow the rules, then we'll end up in trouble.
Excellent. Wow, amazing. If you don't follow the rules, you will end up in trouble. So loyalty is key. Now, yes. Now, the rule of law in Nigeria, on a scale of 1 to 10, I know you are, a senior member of the bar. You've been in the bar for now 25 years and even more. What has been your experience? Because most times we find that the courts will rule on this matter, and obedience of even the judgment is sometimes is far-fetched. Can you just speak to that, sir? Because quite a number of us on this platform, we're not lawyers, but sometimes we are worried and say, the court has ruled, particularly governments, it's a bit discouraging. Can you speak to that, sir?
It's a tough thing when you're in government, really. And sometimes it is difficult to always, while the rule of law says do something this way, a few times you find that as government, they're in a very difficult position. And because I've seen some of them at close quarters, I know that they give their best. And for those who are doing it with an honest intention, it's very frustrating as well. I'll give you an example. Under the Nigerian laws, NEC was set up as a regulatory commission to watch when power was privatized. The National Electricity Regulatory Commission was set up to monitor those who invested their monies in privately, and also the benefit of the users. And they said, well, those who have invested money in this sector need to recoup because it's very expensive. But at the same time, we have been used to getting power from NEPA, or little or no power from NEPA, and it was always difficult for people to want to pay. So NEC was supposed to graduate how you pay and say, okay, now you can increase the tariff a bit more to accommodate the people who have invested so that they can buy distribution equipment to deliver power to more people. That is what NEC is set up to do, to regulate it. However, some people went to court and said, no, NEC cannot increase the price. And the court gave an order that NEC should not increase tariffs at this time. What does that do? The people who have invested in it are not willing to invest more money because what they have invested, they can't recoup. NEC is a stop from increasing the price for them to get money. So we now have a catch-22 situation. If I can't increase the tariff, I'm not going to be able to generate more power or distribute more power to you. And then there's no power, and why should I pay for no power? So
Yeah.
it becomes difficult. So sometimes, for those in government, which one do you obey? Do you increase the tariff and say, look, if you don't pay for electricity, you will not get it? And I'm sure you know, world over, electricity is very expensive. For those in UK, I see them every time they come out of one room, they switch off the light, they turn off the things they're not using. But here we're used to wastage because we are not really paying for it. I think, well, now that I have light, let me use all the light I can get. I will iron my clothes. I remember my first trip to the US, and I was going for a conference for 1 week. When I got to the house, I started ironing my clothes that I will use for that whole week. The man said, hey, calm down. You have electricity.
Light, yeah.
But I was used to ironing everything for 1 week in advance in case I didn't have light when I needed to go out.
Wow.
But when the leadership follows that law, judgment, it becomes a problem. On the other hand, there's also unruliness in government. And there's some people who just believe we're government and there's nothing you can do to us. So balancing is always very difficult. But until they can explain and carry themselves, because government, when we talk of government or leadership, what I was taught in school is judiciary, legislature, and executive.
And executive. Separation of powers.
Yeah, while they are separate, they're still one. And that is what gives leadership to a country. But in a situation where they seem to be working at cross purposes, executive is not carrying legislature along, legislature and the judiciary are working at cross purposes, is why you have confusion in government. So we need to have a situation where people are working together. As you saw in the US, it was the working together of everybody that made it possible for the election. The judiciary said, no, we will not do what is wrong. The legislature supported, the House of Rep did what was right and said, no, we will not upturn the elections. And that was why it stayed. But if one arm had been used against the other, you will find that there will be chaos as well. So what we need to do is to get all arms of government working together to make leadership, to make good governance. Otherwise, as long as they're working at cross purposes, and that usually comes from the fear of tomorrow. Some of them are worried that if I leave this office, I don't know what's going to happen. I've seen judges who retire and don't even have a place to stay. Unless we fix the remuneration and ensure that they can live a good life after service, then we will have this continuing problem.
Wow. I mean, some very deep, perspective there, sir. Now, when I look at leadership and the rule of law, now on the economic side, now I want to dwell in terms of growth, ease of doing business, in Nigeria, for the past few years now, so many, protocols have been put in place, but we seem to still remain on the same spot. What is happening? Can you speak to that, sir?
I think the greatest challenge I find in that is that we need a paradigm shift as a nation. And people talk about corruption. It's not only in government that you find corruption. Start from the very little basics. You send your driver to go and fill your tank, and you're afraid that he was going to try and make some money out of it. The petrol attendant is trying to shortchange you by selling 200 naira and calling it 2,000 naira for you. And you find that little areas are the things that become big. So that man who takes 2,000 naira instead of 200 naira, if he gets into a higher position, do you think he will not look at how he can make more money as well? But it's very easy. And those are the things that affect doing business in Nigeria. I want to set up a business that should cost me 200 naira. The lawyer that is going to register the company for me tells me, oh, the filing fee is 5,000 naira, whereas it's only 500 naira, because he thinks he can make a little extra change from you. And those are the areas where it becomes more difficult. But it takes two to tango. If the giver of bribe refuses to give, the person who is accepted will be forced to do what he should do. He may slow down, he may delay, but ultimately he will be forced to do it because there will be no business. But as long as some people are willing to compromise and get an advantage over those who are not willing, everybody pays the price down the line. Because those who are willing to pay the corrupt price will always seem to have an advantage, but then they will be stuck when they come lower again. That you paid the man at the top, we saw you bribe our guy, what of us? Where's our own? And you always find that it is a price. So the ease of doing business, no matter what rules are put in place, unless people are willing to shift and stay with what is right, we will be suffering a long time to come.
Wow, wow, wow. Now, what has been your, even as a senior lawyer, what has been your, experience in terms of, I know lawyers are, they're involved in bringing, their clients, into different countries, particularly for Nigeria. What has been your experience in terms of convincing some of your clients, particularly when they raise their, concern regarding the rule of law? What has been your experience?
No, it's as long as they see that, and for many people, everybody is looking for a righteous man, a man who will do things properly. Even a thief, when he steals money, he will not go and give his money to a thief. He's looking for an honest man to keep it. That's why they say even among thieves there's honor, because amongst them they're still looking for that one. They say, how can you steal my money? So you find that people who want to come into Nigeria, if they're persuaded that they're dealing with a man or a person or a company who is going to help them do things right, it's sometimes difficult. It sometimes slows things down, but at the end of it, you find that they will come. But a tough operating environment, when they come, is always even the more difficult thing. They're not used to not having power all the time. You are paying so much to get power. The people you employ are looking at how they can take a little extra from your business. So you find they spend so much money on controls, on creating checks and balances that many times they say, look, we can't even trust a Nigerian to head it. They want to bring an expatriate to do what Nigerians are already trained to do. But a lot of it boils down to that, just integrity. If more people will do things with honesty and integrity, you will find that we would even have more businesses growing. But yes, it's tough, but it's working.
Okay, excellent. For those who are just joining us on the call on this in this conversation, I've been speaking with Dapo Akiosun, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and we've been looking at the topic leadership and the rule of law. Now, what are the consequences of leadership not obeying the rule of law? When you have leadership not following the rule of law, what's the consequence for a nation?
It creates chaos, it creates anarchy, it creates things stalling. For instance, if there's a judgment that says you should not do open grazing all over the country, cattle should be put in ranches. But if the leadership is encouraging them to disobey, then you find that there will be skirmishes, as we see continuously, between farmers who are planting and hoping to live on it, and those who are rearing their cattle, who believe if their cattle don't get food, they will die, and that is their own life and business. So you find two economic interests clashing over disobedience of rule of law. But if they had ranched them several years ago and created those ranches that were done, or pastures where they could graze, then you will find the ranches were there before, but because the monies were diverted, the cows started going out to look for food because there was no food in those ranches again. And you find that it gradually begins to break down because some people will not just do the right thing. So leadership is critical in setting the standard and walking the talk.
Amazing. Now, as it is right now, you lawyers and the police, they work together.
Should
work together. But I find that quite a number of lawyers, senior lawyers, they also raise concerns about the police, in terms of enforcement. And can you speak to that? Yes. Because it's one thing to get a court judgment, the lawyer cannot enforce the judgment. So can you just speak to that, sir?
Yeah, well, in terms of enforcement of judgment, you always need to have the police to go with you to enforce a judgment, particularly where it's a judgment where you're taking possession of some assets. And because the rule has been abused several times in time past by people using non-police officers, going with thugs, the police have also created stricter rules to engage. So you have to go and register the judgment to the commissioner for police in that environment. There's a unit that is set up that needs to deploy policemen to your, and that a lot of the time slows things down. However, it was created to avoid the abuse that had started coming up with it, in which people just go and get thugs and go and enforce judgment. Police working with you always makes it easier, but now getting the police, it's a lot of the time, policemen are also working at a great disadvantage. We saw a lot of that being thrown up in the NSAS riots and things that came up. They're overworked, they're underpaid, they're stretched, they're unfairly treated. And when you have a man who is already degraded in his mentality, carrying a gun, and you have to deal with him, I have learned from police long ago that if a policeman wants something from you, he's very respectful and nice when he wants something from you. So in the same manner, when you approach them, be respectful and nice, and you find that they're not always bad. Of course, there are a few bad eggs who will go overboard, but as long as you also engage them civilly, you'll be able to escape any trouble that is coming at that point in time. But the confusion, the conflict usually comes where you're insisting on your right with a man that has a gun and you don't have a gun. I have always shied on the part of staying alive. And to tell the story tomorrow, you know, they say he that fights and runs away
can live
to run. You can live to run another day, but at least you're still living. But dead men don't tell tales. That's been my own approach to life. So there are things that you need to step down and re-engage in another way at another time.
Well, you know, somebody said the corruption, it takes two to tango, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, this area of corruption, you know, I mean, I know we have this anti-corruption, you know, EFCC is there, you know, there's so many laws. I mean, somebody was saying recently that it's not that Nigeria doesn't have laws, but, you know, in terms of, you know, obeying the rule of law has been a major challenge for the Nigerian nation. You know, that we have passed so many laws, you know, the Senate has done so much in that area. But what is the challenge? I mean, can you speak to that? Why is it that we find it so difficult? Is it the political will or? Yes.
Well, it's not just a political will. As someone said, it always takes two to tango. And because we're in a situation where people want to make more money at short notice without doing things properly, it's what always leads to these issues. The laws are there, but are they enforced? How many people go to prison? We have even seen in situations where somebody is sentenced to prison and he pays somebody else to go to prison on his behalf. That person comes up and says, "Oh, I'm the one, that was me." And you find that as long as there's plenty of money to be made, people are willing to do things crazily. We have worked for politicians before who say, wait until I get into office, I'll then be able to pay you all your fees. But that means that if I work for you and you cannot pay my fees before you get into that office, and what you are looking at doing is that when you get into the office, you will pay me. That means you are going into the office to steal money. You are going to take money that doesn't belong to you to pay for my services that I did for you privately. And you are using government money to pay my fees. So from day one, I can see that your intention of going to that office may not be very noble, but all you are looking at is how you can make money. And so if I support you in that way, and you know, many of us, I want to say, okay, let me support you. When he gets there, he'll pay me. At least then I will get my own chance to make money too. So that means we are both standing on the wrong pedestal. But if you cannot pay for my services now, it's either I'm willing to do it for you for free, or I'm not, but I'm not hoping to get you to use money you are taking illegally to pay my fees. But once I start encouraging that, then I can't complain down the line that the man is taking money. If he takes money to pay my fees, which he doesn't have now, he's going to take money to pay other fees and save some for next year, if you know what I mean.
So how can we build systems that would ensure that the rule of law is obeyed in Nigeria? How can we build systems that will endure?
You see, as I said before, the rules are there, the systems are there. It is the people that need to be determined to make this change. Unless we're willing to sacrifice. You see, a lot of people leave Nigeria and say, I'm going abroad, I'm going to Canada, I'm going to, yes, those places are working because some people have done the fight before. Some people have stood their grounds. The truth is that in America today, people, as you can see, people will do things wrong. It's only because you know you will go to jail, you will end up in jail, that will stop you. If you know you will get caught. When you watch some of this series, Crime and Investigation, 30, 40 years down the line, they are still looking for the perpetrator. Look at the man who committed war crimes in old Nazi Germany. In his old age, in his 80s, he was still sentenced because they kept at it. And if you know that ultimately the system will catch up with me, then there's a likelihood that you will not do things wrong. So it is we, the people, that need to start making a bold determination that we want this change, and this change begins with me and you. Unless we are determined to do it, then nobody's going to do it for us. We'd always let it be hijacked by people who want to do it the wrong way.
Wow, awesome. I also want you to speak to, you are an active member of the NBA, Nigerian Bar Association, and you're in the business law. You've done quite a bit in that area. Can you speak to, what your achievements in that part of the NBA? Yes.
My achievements in the NBA are not very many because I've been doing it more as a private citizen. But of course, I worked with the NBA when we were setting up the Competition Law Committee several years ago. I was very active in that. And of course, on the Lagos Bar, when they were doing the dinner and things like that, I've been a supporter, but I've not been in the leadership in the NBA. Okay. Not everybody has been leadership. Some people have to support. And for those who want to go into leadership, we've been actively supporting them and encouraging them. But I don't take leadership roles in the NBA yet. Maybe at a later date, if there's a vacuum or there's opportunity, we'll look at that. But right now, we'll support those who want to be in leadership and obey the rules as well.
Wow, excellent, excellent. Now, what types of values can be used to build the system that will ensure that the rule of law is respected in Nigeria? What values should be, in place? I know you mentioned it earlier,
Yes, one, you must be willing to defy your gratification. That, look, I'm willing to wait a bit for me to become a millionaire. I want to wait a bit to ensure that even if I will not get this order or judgment or written judgment out from court because somebody is demanding a bribe, I will wait until I get it done. If it's going to take 1 week, I keep going back. It will stall me a while, but I will get it. I want to get the police to join me in enforcing. If the policeman says, go and write a letter, go and write the letter. Don't look at how I can bribe him to say, look, leave the letter, let's go. But let's do things properly, follow it through. It takes a little while, but we must be patient. We must be willing to suffer a bit before things get done. Then also, when you're looking at setting the stage, how many people have really gone to prison? How many cases have we followed through? We have journalists that are not really doing investigative journalism again. But there was a case I read in the US Washington Post then about what Pfizer did wrong in Nigeria. But one journalist kept on it, that what Pfizer did in Nigeria at that time, when they came to do the Trovan trial, they were trying out the trial drug Trovan in Kano, where there was an epidemic of meningitis. Yes. But that journalist, I think in Washington Post, he followed the case until Pfizer's work or what Pfizer did wrong was exposed, and he did a newspaper serialization of it up to 10 years after the case, and he kept at it. But what you find is that once we start following a story in Nigeria, once there's no longer newsy, it's not very important again. Journalists and they move on to the next headline. But nobody really follows cases through to see how there's corruption. We say there's corruption. Have you followed the corruption story through? Have you followed the corrupt judge or corrupt lawyer to show that yes, it's true? But we just dwell a lot on rumors, headline story. We just flash it on the page, scandalize them without any facts or basis to support it. So we need to have people doing thorough investigative work and follow up to ensure it is concluded. But until we begin to stay the course, it's going to be difficult.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow. Excellent. Now, I just want you to also speak to, I've been speaking with Dakwa Kyosu, SAN. We've been talking about leadership and the rule of law. Now, in the prisons, Nigerian prisons, we hear that there are a lot of inmates that is awaiting trial. People have been there for several years, and sometimes we have, the chief judge will go there maybe once in a year to, you know, uh, give some people that opportunity, maybe clemency. What is happening? I mean, our prisons are, filled with people that are awaiting trial. Can you speak to that, sir?
First challenge with prisons is that it needs a total overhaul and reform. Many of the people who are awaiting trial are actually awaiting trial for the lesser state offenses, stealing, burglary, land matters, which are all under state law. But the prisons are controlled by the federal government. And so there's not enough accommodation. For many of those prisons were built several years ago. They've not been expanded, they've not been increased in size. But meanwhile, you're getting more people, more offenses. There are more offenses created, more punishments. Even for simple traffic violation, you may end up in prison. And then the prison, those are minor state offenses. But when it comes to taking them to court, the prison system or correction system now is overburdened. They don't have enough facilities to take them to court. Many cars are broken down. Who fuels those cars? Because every time they're going, that is a impact on the federal government's budget. Whereas it is state offense, they're going to a state court. So the interplay of these things make it very heavy to bear. So they get to court, there's no light in the courtroom that day. The court cannot sit in the heat. What do? They return them to prison. The matter is adjourned for another 3 months or 6 weeks. Before the next time they come back, there's no vehicle to bring them to court that day, or there's no security. So you find that all those little things begin to drag a simple matter of a traffic violator, and he finds himself in prison just waiting for a hearing date for months. So until there's a total reform in which, first of all, the correction system or prison system is made to be run by states who can now gauge how many people we're doing. I know that many people in many countries, once the identity system, and this is also intertwined with the identity system, if I can track you down 5 years from now, wherever you are, because you have an NIN number, some number I can use to track you anywhere you are in the country, then you know that if you escape from one state and go to another state, we will still be able to track you. Then the state can gauge how many people he has in his prisons. It can give more financial punishment and say, pay a fine of this and go away. Once you don't pay that fine, we're going to clamp you down somewhere else. But there have to be more creative ways of getting the prisons decongested. But as long as we are waiting on that system, of which you break a traffic light, you end up in prison, you are spending 3 months awaiting trial. Whereas the man who has committed murder is also there. And both of you are now forced to live together. Even in that place, you begin to learn bad manners. You begin to form bad company, because what you went in for was a simple offense, but you are now mingling with criminals who are hardened, and they first torture you when you get into the prison. You have to either bow down to them and you begin to learn their ways. So it becomes a lot more complicated inside the prison. Instead of correcting you, it ends up toughening you and making even a more serious criminal of you. So those laws have to be reformed. They have to find a way of outsourcing. As you find in the US system, the prison service is actually outsourced. It's managed by private companies who are paid to do it. And the money is generated from different sources. And we need to look at overhauling that system in its entirety.
Wow. Thank you so much for speaking to that, because I know that quite a number of inmates are there. Some you hear they've been there for 15 years, just awaiting trial. Maybe they just like petty, thieves and so on and so forth. And even the courts are overwhelmed, because sometimes they say that, you have cases before it even gets to the appeal courts. It might take even 10 years, before you can have a judge that will listen to that. Can you listen to the take of the matter? Can you speak to that in terms of judges, in terms of, ability to the cases, delays in trial?
Yeah, as I said, some of those delays are caused by the kind of offenses that people are taken in for. Now, the appellate system is overburdened because there are some cases that are time-bound, particularly as we began democracy. Many of the election tribunals, election petitions are time-bound and need to be finished. You saw before when some people are in court till almost the expiration, and it has even happened before that 4 years have elapsed and they haven't finished. So laws were made that these election petitions and things that will be finishing quickly have to be accelerated. Now, when they get priority over normal cases, you will find that it is the same judge that is taken away from his court to go and sit on an election petition. While he's away sitting on that election petition, the court's cases in his court suffer a while. They have to stay and adjourn until he comes back. Now, can we create special courts that will hear those kind of cases? We know that those judges will sit every 4 years or every 3 years when election time comes. Can we fast-track criminal cases and all petty cases and have a small crimes court where we will deal with all those petty things and deal with them strictly? And how many judges are appointed? The Constitution fixes the number of judges that can be appointed in each level. Can that be adjusted to increase the number of judges? If that is increased, how will the budget increase to deal with the number of judges? Because for every judge employed, he has to have a house, he has to have a car, he has to have security. So it is a whole spiral effect. But until those things are increased, and of course, at the end of it, how do you pay them well to avoid them becoming corrupt? You read in the papers recently, some magistrates in Cross River State also who have been sitting for 2 years without pay.
And went to protest.
Who
That
does
the government has not paid. Yes.
Yeah, these are people who are sitting in judgment over other people, and then they are not paid salaries for 2 years. I mean, they have children they're sending to school. They took this job under whatever guys. However, they got the jobs, and they're expecting to live off the income they make there. But if they're not paid, then you can imagine that on the day he's going to go and sell shoes or shirt or go and borrow money from somebody, he's not going to sit in court that day. Every matter that is coming up before him will be stalled. And in like manner, if a member, someone who knows his uncle or knows, hey, look, tell this man to hear my case quickly, we'll give him 50,000 naira or something. It creates a venue for people to
compromise.
Yeah. So in the same manner, when all those cases go to the Court of Appeal, the number of Court of Appeal judges, you can only have so many. The new president has created many more jurisdictions because they are willing to try and give dates. They've expedited, and they've cleared a lot of backlogs thus far. However, we still have that challenge in that the number of judges that can be employed by the Constitution has to be increased. Otherwise, you now have 3 judges of the Court of Appeal sitting in one jurisdiction when there should be 5. So if one of them is down, for any reason can't come, then means matters can't go on until the person comes back. So it's a whole lot of increasing the number. The population is increasing rapidly, and the Constitution is not making. So those are the kind of laws and rules that need to be changed or revised to make room for quick dispensation of justice. But it's a whole value chain that it needs to be engaged.
Wow. We're almost getting to the end of the session. I just want to appreciate you, sir, for showing up even at a time like this. For those who have been listening, if you have any questions or comments at this point, please feel free to leave it in the chat box. There's an opportunity for you to engage with the senior advocate tonight. I just want you also to speak to this area of special courts for corruption. Special courts. There was a time that I think about 2 years ago, the vice president was talking about, was it the president? We're talking about, creating special courts to prosecute, anti-corruption cases, because some of these cases have been there 8 years, 10 years, and there's been a delay, even Nigeria in terms of, the corruption, this index. Nigeria is, I think, is number 146, so can you speak to that, sir? special courts for
Creating special courts always comes with its own dangers. Because when a court is set up only for that purpose, people will always look for how to infiltrate or to bend the rules of that court. However, when the courts are set up, how do you remunerate them effectively or sufficiently? Because you are dealing with large sums of money, large volumes. How do you insulate them? How do you protect them? People who have money are willing to engage all manners of ways to eliminate the judge who seems to be difficult. That happens a lot in Mexico and those countries where crime is very high and people are willing to do anything to keep their money. Also, there's a lot of antics from those who manipulate the judicial system. There are some holes in the law. There's no law that is perfect. I know that I can use the court system to waste your time and hope that the administration will change. I will go to court and ask for an order staying proceedings at the lower court because I don't like the way the judge is going. And you find that people use different kind of antics to delay. We have seen people coming to court and fainting in court just because they don't want the matter to go on. And some of this is aided by lawyers who are willing to bend the system. So until we have a situation as well, I know that the legal profession is one of the most regulated, and you find lawyers being disciplined and suspended regularly. But you still find there are some who are willing to risk their license just to get to steal a match. I mean, you see the US where lawyers went to do what was wrong. Immediately the judges called them to order. The lawyers started backing down on some of the things they were doing for Trump. And until we find that kind of strong regulation and punishment system as well for people who manipulate or do injustice with the law, as in now you are sanctioned personally, affects your career. You'll find, but sometimes when you look at what am I earning in my career, vis-a-vis what I can make for doing something wrong. Hey, I mean, the kind of fight the politicians are fighting sometimes is billions of naira worth of take when they get into government. And you're offering a man who earns at best 500,000 a year, sometimes, or 600,000 a month. And they say, you know what, I can give you 1 billion naira for this case. The man will look at it. Even if I'm on my salary, how long will it take me to get 1 billion naira? Hey, you know, so the stakes just have to be made much more difficult by remunerating those. And I think a lot of it comes down to getting the right people into office, remunerating them appropriately, protecting them. And if you're setting up a special court, know that you are going to be securing them well. But how do you secure men when there are not even enough police officers to guard the city? You need to train more policemen, you need to engage more policemen. So it's a whole gamut, but I believe it starts from, first of all, recruiting more policemen, engage training them. We need thousands more police than we have now. We've talked about local policing. What can be done to effect it quicker? When you begin to have local policing and you're getting more policemen at different levels. Right now, you bring a Hausa man from Borno to come and police Lagos. They're planning to still right beside him speaking Yoruba. He doesn't understand what they're saying. Even if they're plotting to kill him, he doesn't know. So we have more local policing to begin to, you can see Amoteco is beginning to have some effect. Even they're not properly armed or trained yet or fully trained, but you can see that they're beginning to engage more kind of local crimes. They're the ones discovering people, bandits bringing in guns into the forest and challenging them because they know those routes themselves. So we need to backtrack a bit, expand our enforcement system, create more policemen, train them. Then we move up to the judiciary, increase the regulation, increase the number of judges we have. That way you can be sure that there will be fair judgments, there will be timeless dispensation. And if you have to increase the size of the prisons or outsource it, but everything comes down to how do we enforce judgment? Until we get to enforcement of rule of law properly, there would always be corruption, there will always be crime, because people know that they can get away with doing things wrong.
Wow. I just want to salute you, sir. I mean, I'm so encouraged. You said so many things tonight. For those who are going to be watching the replay, we've been speaking on leadership and the rule of law. We just have 2 more questions as we close. It's been a wonderful session. I want you to speak to those who are just coming into the practice of law. young lawyers who might be listening to this? What's the advice? I know that for you, you said law was not your first degree, you know, um, and you have come this far, and you become a senior advocate of the of Nigeria. I just want you to share some words of encouragement.
That a lot of young lawyers always give up early. Truth is that law is a lifetime. You don't retire from being a lawyer. There's nothing better than the practice of law. I've been in the corporate world. I've gone into banking. I've been a company secretary, but I came back into litigation. Litigation is what you can do for the rest of your life. It's slow money. It doesn't pay as quickly as many lawyers would want, but it eventually pays. But you have to pay your dues to get the pay ultimately. You have to acquire the skills, and it's a tough learning curve. But when you are good at what you do, you keep practicing what you do, you will get there eventually. That journey up is tough. That journey up is difficult sometimes, but I don't know a better profession than law, really. I feel sorry for those of you who are not lawyers sometimes.
No, don't even go there. Don't even go there. I know you are trying to.
I'm just saying.
No, incidentally, I did a master's in property valuation and law. I'm not a lawyer, I mean, the law of, property. But, that's just to help enable me understand the law of, real estate.
Now, you don't need to understand law. You just need to understand.
Because we all need to understand the law, so that at least we'll be on the right side of the law. I want to, the B part of that question is that there's some people that study law. Quite a number of young people study law, and you find out that they end up becoming fashion designers. They become, go into IT. They go into banking, and they just what can you say? I mean, speak to that for those that go to law school and end up. Yes.
The legal trade and the legal mindset just helps you to approach things differently. You are taught to think out of the box. You are taught to look at the same thing that you would just see white and say, oh, this is white. I say, no, why is it white? Are you sure it is white? Look at it again. Can you see a shade under it? And you will find that what it does, it just broadens your mind and ability to think. So whatever profession, whatever career you take up after being trained as a lawyer, law is only a pedestal to start off. And you find that many of them still do well in whatever lies, because they are taught to just think critically and look at every process that they see and approach it differently. But not everybody can end up being practicing lawyers. Not everybody will end up in the courtroom. We don't even have enough cases, of course, to take all of us. However, whatever your hands find to do, just do it well and do it with the passion of being trained as a lawyer. That's all. But hey, it's good to have people in other professions. All of us cannot be going to court. Otherwise, how will we get clients? So we still need people like you.
Are you trying to discourage young lawyers to say that, look, they can study law, but they don't necessarily have to practice law? Because, no. I mean, for someone who has gone to law school, maybe probably in the US, and has paid, maybe $100,000 to become a lawyer, and it goes to the New York bar, and you now say, okay, or Nigeria, as it were, because it's very expensive to become a lawyer. Would you now say the person should, just learn it and switch to other careers?
No, my first advice is that as much as possible, try and practice law for 2 years. At least for the first 2 years of your graduation, try and practice it. Understand what it takes, so that if at any point in time you need to come back into it, you have an understanding of the rudiments. It may change, things may change around it, but you always be able to catch up. But if you are not finding joy in what you're doing, the most important thing is finding fulfillment in what you do. I may be trained as a lawyer and not find fulfillment in going to court, not because there's no money in it, but because it is not really what I enjoy doing. Some people prefer to write. As a lawyer, you may become a journalist, writing novels, writing books, writing articles, but that is what you find pleasure in doing. And if I am more inclined to the entertainment, I like hosting people, I like having parties, and you find yourself in event what do you call it? Event management. As long as you are bringing your skill and thought process to bear and critical management of the chain, there's nothing wrong with it. We'll all get to the end. Not everybody has to go in the same direction. As long as your mind is formed and you know what you're doing, we can only pray for you and wish you the best of luck.
Wow. I said 2 more questions, but now I want to also, it's going to be 2. One more extra. Now you're a senior advocate of Nigeria. My late dad was also a senior advocate of Nigeria, blessed memory. And I know when he became a senior advocate, we followed him to the Supreme Court, in Abuja, and took pictures. It was a glorious day, his siblings, my mom, everyone was there. Now that you are a senior advocate of Nigeria, what's the feeling like?
Oh, definitely. It gives you a feeling of achievement. At least there's a what do you call it? There's a peak of your career or like profession you have chosen. And the fact that you achieve it gives you a good feeling that at least it shows that if I want something, I can do it and I will do it. If somebody else has done it before me, that means I can. If your late dad became a senior advocate after being a professor, then that means that I can also be a senior. I have no excuse for not being able to do it. And you just need to find out what is the process. If that is what I want to do, then I begin to follow it and say, how do I do it? What are the steps I need to follow? And as initially I was discouraged from doing it because I thought many people were not doing it right. But I found out that, look, if you do things the right way and you follow the process, you will get there eventually. It's just a matter of committing your mind to the process and determining to follow it through. And you find that, yes, but it's certainly a good feeling to know that, okay, I've picked here. So the next is what other mountain is there to climb. God will show me as I look forward to the next level.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure your wife will be so proud of you and your children as well. We are proud of you, and we pray that there'll be more wins by the special grace of God in Jesus' name. Finally, who are your mentors? Because I don't think all this knowledge that you are pouring out tonight is accidental. Who are your mentors?
Your mentors come and go, depend on your level in life. As you grow, you take on some other person, but definitely my mentors in life have been, as I grew in school, I had some teachers that I just revered. I just loved them so much. And some of them was the late Professor Mosini, who took me in history, European history in the University of Ife. While I was in Unilag, Professor Shibajo was one of my most favorite lecturers. The way he just approached issues and took things calmly and made sure that all of us understood. In practice, in church and practice, I had Pastor Femi Atoyebi, senior advocate of Nigeria, who showed me how to fish, that you can do things right. And of course, later in life, I had Mr. Oyebode of Alukwano Oyebode, who taught me several things about the practice or the business of law. I ultimately teamed up with Professor Shibajo again, who has been a great mentor and leader, and now the vice president of the country. But those men have made valuable, but most of all, of course, my late father set the foundation, taught me to fight for whatever I would. And I have a senior brother, Wale Akinyoshun, who has been a great leader and role model for me as well.
Wow. I just want to thank you because tonight they said that you told me yesterday that your wife, you asked for special permission to feature on this program because today is a day set aside to celebrate please
I'll be watching.
Yeah, she's watching. Okay, please say a big thank you to her for sparing you, giving us this opportunity to listen and learn from you. No doubt, those who have been listening, I just want us to say a big thank you to Dapo Akinyosun, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for showing up tonight. No doubt, we are so thankful, and those who are going to be watching the replay, they're going to be learning a lot tonight. And we pray that many more wins for you and your family in Jesus' name. So once again, thank you so much for showing up. In 30 seconds, can you just share some words of encouragement to those who are listening, or those who are going to be joining us later?
I'm a firm believer in the Project Nigeria. I believe that this country can work. I trust that together we can make this country much better, a better place for us. I think we should all learn to do things properly. It's difficult, it's tough climbing, but trust me, at the end of the day, the reward and the benefits are worth all the trouble. Thank you very much. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on God. Stay with the Project Nigeria and stay in God. And I'm sure all things are possible through Christ.
Thank you so much. So once again, I would like to say a big thank you to you. Thank you for those who have been on this session tonight. This is the 23rd session of Leadership Talk with Adegoke, and I've been speaking with Dapo Akinyosu, and we've been looking at the topic leadership and the rule of law. Leadership and the rule of law. So till same time next week, I want to wish you a wonderful Sunday evening. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. that was a very powerful one.